In the heart of the Arabian desert, more than 14 centuries ago, a message began to unfold that would change the course of human history. At the center of this message was one man, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. But he was not alone. Around him gathered a generation of men and women unlike any other, individuals whose lives would become intertwined with the very fabric of Islam. These were the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet. But who were they, really? What transformed them from ordinary people into legends whose stories still inspire millions today? This is the story of the greatest companions, the pillars who stood with the Prophet through trial and triumph, and whose legacy continues to shine as a beacon of faith, courage, and unwavering devotion. Before the light of Islam, Mecca was a city steeped in tradition, tribal loyalties, and a pantheon of idols. It was into this world that the first companions emerged, drawn to a message that spoke of one God, of justice, and of a higher purpose. Imagine the courage it took. The first to embrace this new faith was Khadija, the Prophet's beloved wife. A successful businesswoman, wise and respected, she was his rock, his first believer, offering not just her heart but her wealth, and unwavering support when the entire world seemed against him. Her belief was the first comfort, a validation that what he was experiencing was divine truth. Then came the young Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet's cousin, who grew up in his own household. A boy of immense courage and wisdom beyond his years, he accepted Islam with the pure and questioning faith of youth, pledging his life to protect the Prophet. And there was Zayd ibn Haritha, a former slave whom the Prophet freed and adopted as his own son. In a society rife with class division, Zayd's devotion showed that in Islam, piety, not lineage, was the true measure of a person. But perhaps no story of early conversion is as powerful as that of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. A respected merchant, known for his gentle nature and sound judgment, he was the Prophet's closest friend. When the Prophet first shared his revelation, Abu Bakr didn't hesitate for a moment. He believed. His title, as-Siddiq, the truthful one, was earned that day. He immediately began to use his influence to bring others to the faith, becoming a cornerstone of the nascent Muslim community. It was Abu Bakr who purchased and freed Bilal ibn Rabah, an Abyssinian slave who was being brutally tortured by his master for proclaiming his belief in one God. Bilal's iconic story, his steadfastness under persecution, and his eventual honor of being the first muezzin, the one to call the faithful to prayer, echoes the transformative power of this new message. These first few were just the beginning. Soon, others joined. There was the strong and resolute Umar ibn al-Khattab. Initially one of the staunchest opponents of Islam, his story is a testament to divine guidance. He set out with the intention to harm the Prophet, but upon hearing the beautiful verses of the Qur'an, his heart was completely transformed. His conversion was a turning point for the Muslims. No longer would they have to practice their faith in secret. Umar's strength and fearless nature brought a new sense of security and boldness to the community. He went from being a persecutor to one of Islam's most passionate defenders, his leadership later shaping the Muslim world in profound ways. And we cannot forget Uthman ibn Affan, the wealthy and modest merchant known for his immense generosity. He was called Dun Nurayn, the possessor of two lights, because he married two of the Prophet's daughters. Uthman used his vast wealth to support the community, famously purchasing a well for the Muslims of Medina and equipping an entire army for the expedition of Tabuk. His gentle demeanor and piety were matched only by his deep love for the Prophet and the Qur'an. It was under his guidance as Caliph that the Qur'an was compiled into the single volume we have today, a monumental service to Islam. The companions were not all of one mold. They were a diverse group of individuals from every walk of life. There were scholars like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who was small in stature but a giant in his knowledge of the Qur'an. The Prophet himself encouraged others to learn the Qur'an from him. There were military geniuses like Khalid ibn al-Walid, the Sword of Allah. Initially a fierce opponent who led the Meccan cavalry against the Muslims, his conversion brought one of the greatest military minds in history to the side of Islam. His strategic brilliance was instrumental in many key victories, yet he remained incredibly humble, attributing all success to God alone. The women among the companions also played indispensable roles. We've mentioned the mother of the believers, Khadija. But there was also Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr. Known for her sharp intellect and incredible memory, she became one of the most significant transmitters of the Prophet's sayings and practices, or Hadith. A vast portion of our understanding of the Prophet's personal life and the finer details of Islamic law comes through her. Her home was a school of knowledge for men and women alike. Think of Nusayba bint Ka'b, also known as Amara. In the Battle of Uhud, when the tide turned against the Muslims and many fled, she stood firm, forming a human shield around the Prophet with her sons and husband, fighting fiercely and sustaining numerous wounds to protect him. Her story shatters any misconception that the women of that era were passive. They were active, courageous, and central to the community's survival and success. What united this diverse group of people? It was a profound and transformative love for God and His messenger. They witnessed revelation firsthand. They saw miracles. But more than that, they lived with a man who was the perfect example of the teachings he brought. They saw his kindness, his mercy, his justice, his humility. They ate with him, prayed with him, laughed with him, and cried with him. He wasn't a distant figure, he was their teacher, their leader, their brother, and their friend. This deep connection is what fueled their incredible sacrifices. They left their homes, their wealth, and their families during the migration, or hijra, from Mecca to Medina. They faced persecution, starvation, and boycotts. In Medina, the local inhabitants who welcomed the Muslims demonstrated a unique form of brotherhood. They shared their homes, their businesses, and everything they owned with the Muhajirun, the immigrants from Mecca. This bond, forged by faith, was stronger than any bond of blood. The companions were the generation that learned Islam directly from the source. They didn't just hear the verses of the Qur'an, they lived the context in which those verses were revealed. They saw the principles of justice, compassion, and equality put into practice before their very eyes. They understood the spirit of the law, not just the letter. It is for this reason that their understanding and their collective consensus is a cornerstone of Islamic scholarship. After the Prophet's passing, a heavy responsibility fell upon their shoulders. The four rightly guided caliphs Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali led the community through its most formative years, expanding the message of Islam and establishing a state built on the principles of justice and consultation taught by the Prophet. But it wasn't just the leaders. Every companion became an ambassador of Islam. They traveled far and wide, to Syria, Egypt, Persia, and North Africa, carrying the light of the message they had received. They were not just conquerors, they were teachers and role models. Where they settled, they established centers of learning and lived as examples of the faith, attracting people through their character and integrity. The story of the companions is not a story of perfect, infallible beings. They were human. They made mistakes, and the Quran and the Prophet's teachings guided them back. Their struggles and their triumphs are what make them so relatable. They show us that no matter one's background, wealth, or past, a sincere commitment to truth can elevate a person to incredible heights. Their lives are a practical demonstration of how to live a life of purpose, centered around faith in God and service to humanity. They are, as the Prophet described them, like stars. Whichever one you follow, you will be guided. Their legacy is not just a collection of historical accounts, it is a living blueprint for character, community, and unwavering faith. Their stories continue to inspire, to teach, and to guide, reminding us of the transformative power of true companionship and the timeless beauty of the message they carried. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the lives of the greatest companions. If their stories have inspired you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that explores the rich history of the Islamic world. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Which companion story resonates with you the most? Until next time.